Want to call the meeting to order? Start with the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mochler.
Here.
Reinhold.
Here.
Brady.
Here.
Easy.
Here.
Culbertson.
Here.
Approve agenda.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign, motion passes. Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none, approved minutes for December 9th and December 15th meetings.
Move. Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign, motion passes. Are there any visitors to be heard? Hearing none, I need to entertain a motion to go into ditch board.
Motion will go to ditch board. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. We're in ditch board. We've got an invoice for all tag operations for $3,548.75 for Clay Creek ditch.
I moved to pay the invoice to Alteg for $35.48.75.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion passes. There's nothing else for ditch board. We'll entertain a motion to come out.
Move to come out of ditch board. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion passes. For regular session. Brent, we've got diesel quotes.
Yes, sir. Brunix came in, 4/10 cheaper than CHS. So
It was a close one.
Yeah, it was very close.
Move to approve the low bid from Brunix. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion passes. Low slump overlay.
Yep. Just need to get that contract signed for Alteg.
Good motion to sign the contract.
Move to authorize signature on the contract for low slope overlay. Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you, guys. You have a happy new year.
You
Happy
too.
New Year, Brent.
Andy. You can be wherever you want, so.
Stay here then.
We've got Minnehaha County inmate boarding contract for approval.
Yeah, that's another one. They sent it to me and I said, well, I don't think we're gonna use them, but it's nice to have that contract, the amounts, prohibitive. If we can avoid using them, we will, $131.90.
Oh, makes us look good.
Yeah, and so, just in case we have a need to have an inmate up there, examples might be if somebody's whether has issues that they have better means to deal with, which we almost never do that. We tend to deal with our own issues. But, or if we have somebody sitting a couple of days, we might not run up there and get them, but truthfully, I don't see us using them at all, but I just recommend we have the contract.
And that's your signature on that one? Or is?
I think it's
I think I'm signing both of those.
I moved to authorize all the signatures on the Minnehaha County boarding contract.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion passes. We've got animal control services.
And we have the contract with Sioux Falls Humane Society. We almost never have used them. Generally, what happens is somebody will pick up a stray cat or dog and take it up there they don't vet the people at all. They just accept the cat or dog and they say they found it in Clay County and we get a bill for it. And so, sometimes I'm skeptical and they won't give me names. They don't ask names. It's a, no questions asked situation except what county are you coming from? So they know who to bill. In any case, it's not a big deal for us. I think we paid about $60 this year. The last few years, I don't think we've used them at all. But where they'd come in handy is if we had a major neglect sort of case like we saw from Brookings here just recently. If we had that, they would be valuable to us. So I'd recommend we continue that.
And is it essentially the same as the previous one?
Yeah.
I move to authorize signature of the Animal Control Services contract.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Resolution to name the courthouse annex, the Raymond D. Passett Courthouse Annex.
Yeah, and I brought that to your attention here a few weeks ago. We're kind of getting to a point where the signage was taken off the west side of the building because it's no longer the safety center. But thought, well, what are we gonna call it? We've talked about that a little bit, courthouse annex, and I thought that, being that, Dusty, his length of service to the county as sheriff and commissioner, it's a good way to recognize that, besides the fact that he's the guy that got the building built. I actually have in my files, and I came across them in the move, letters from Dusty to the commission in '84, asking for an addition like that. So history kind of repeated itself here because he pushed and pushed and pushed for years to get it. In fact, he recommended at that time to close the jail and board their inmates out, which didn't happen, but eventually we did do that. And he had recommended the exact same thing we did back in 2020. And any case, it was a lot of work to get to that point. He was the guy that made sure it got done. His name's inside the building. The dedication plaque still gonna stay in the building, but I just think it'd be appropriate to have his name on the outside too. So I drafted a resolution, my words. I don't know if you guys want to change it at all, but that's what I suggested. Chad and Cinda came here today. I think just assumed to support that or hear what we had to say. I don't know if they want to say anything.
The only thing I would change is add a few more of those flowery whereases, how what a person he was and what a great leader he was and all these things. But I also don't think he probably would ask us to do that either. So I move to approve resolution 2025-42, renaming the annex the Raymond D. Passett.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? My only question was, should we put Dusty on there? It's not, I'm wondering that too.
Yep.
It's not part of the resolution. It's Raymond D. And
I went with Raymond D. That's his name. Dusty's his nickname. Everybody knows him by Dusty, but I don't know.
that's what I was wondering if they would know if it was who he was, if it didn't have Dusty in there.
I'd be happy to have a friendly amendment to that and change it to the Raymond Dusty Passett annex. But if the family approves.
Yep, that sounds great to me.
So we just need to change. That's not a substantial change, is it?
No, it's not.
We just use this one.
Bill's name. So can I amend?
He doesn't stand for Dusty, but
We're gonna put it there.
as soon as it does.
I amend my motion to include that amendment to adding Dusty.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Oh, one more question. Where's the sign? Is the sign gonna face the parking lot or the street?
I think it should face the parking lot where the Washington Street side of the building is going to be employee or staff only entrance, not a public entrance. I think it'd be lost over there. I just feel like it'd be appropriate to have it on the east side of the parking lot to where people coming into that building will see it, as well as people entering the courthouse. We'll see it there. It would be lower than it would on the other side. Actually, the same height, but the ground level's higher there. So it might be smaller lettering. I don't know. I mean, design folks would be the ones to design that, how that'd look.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mochler,
Yes.
Graylow,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Husey,
Yes.
Silverston.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, you guys. Thank you, guys.
Surplus declaration for the food warmer and the LED flagpole lights.
Yeah, we have some materials that were bought for the construction of this building that we don't need. And I can go into the details of why we have them and don't need them if you like. But we need to get them out of here. We're never gonna use them. And I think that it would probably be a situation where the proceeds of that should probably go back to the bond because they were bought with the bond. And then go back to that, you know, bond balance. I don't know, Carrie would probably be the one to talk to you about that. But what we have is a food warmer that we bought. The deal was it was spec'd and purchased. And then when the electrician found that the application of the food warmer where it's placed in the kitchen requires a GFCI, and it was a 50 amp food warmer, and they don't make a 50 amp GFCI. And so we had to change it to a 30 amp. It was a long process of getting that done. And so there we sat with this 50 amp food warmer, and we can't use it in our kitchen. So it's parked out in our garage here. I'd like to get it out of here. It's brand new, never been used. And then we also have some flagpole lights. They had spec long before I was able to see what they had planned. They'd already purchased these flagpole lights for a flagpole. I was just opposed to it. I don't think they would work. Argued that, but by this time they were already bought. And so we have, so we got the flagpole lights that we wanted, but we have these extra flagpole lights. They're designed to go halfway up the flagpole, which as you see on our flagpole, there's a loop at the bottom that follows the pole. It'll hit that light and it won't work. And so anyway, they're just designed to go on flagpole. Maybe some people would want them if you have external, both cables on the outside, then the up and the down, it would work. So there's a use for them, just not here. So I wanted to just get rid of those. We'll never use them. And then it's not on the agenda because I'd forgotten about it at the time I'd asked Carrie, but we could talk about it next week. We have 100 insulated stacking food trays that we're not going to use because again, they got spec for 4. Our Summit said we don't, to meet our meal spec, Summit needs a 5 compartment meal tray. And we had all these that I didn't even know why they were here. They just ended up in the kitchen. The kitchen design included meal trays. I didn't even know they had those till I just wondered what was in all those boxes. And so we have 100 meal trays we don't need. So I just want to see if we can find it useful. I'd asked around to other jails and projects if they could use the food warmer and the meal trays, and none of them do.
What is Purple Wave?
What's that?
What is Purple Wave?
Purple Wave, it's an online auction. We've used both Gerard and Purple Wave to sell things. Nice thing about Purple Wave, they come here, they take photos, they put it on their site, and then the buyer picks it up here. We don't have to drive it around or deliver it.
Andy, do you know what the rough value of those items are?
The food warmer is $2,000 or no, yeah, 2,500. And I don't believe this, or I don't want to believe this. I'm told that the flagpole lights are 3,000 each.
Ooh.
I just can't fathom that when you look at it, but that's what the contractor told me.
There's some notice requirement at the $2,500 mark that we'll have to meet.
For advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you declare them surplus, we'll do that. We'll advertise them, but I probably would wait until next week so we can do the food trays as well, unless it's possible to add that on this items.
I would say since we didn't have it on the agenda specific to these 2 items, right?
Yeah, the agenda just says declare items surplus, I think, right? They're
says
Summer and LED. So you could either approve this as surplus, table it and do all 3 next week and just do it all at the same time. I think either way would be appropriate.
We can surplus these 2 we have on the agenda, right?
You can. But then if we're gonna do notice, they're probably gonna wait to do all 3 at the same time.
Well, I can make an appointment with Purple Wave and get things rolling if you want to declare these as surplus.
What do we have to notice?
Advertise.
Yeah, the LED ones are so valuable, you have to put notice out.
Well, as is the one.
Yeah, we've done it before.
$1,000 each.
What's that?
That's, I suppose that's total for all
But it's yeah, we've done it before. We through Purple Wave, we've sold the car, we've sold electronic equipment, bicycles, things like that. And so it works out just fine. We'll advertise it. But I think that if you proceed on these 2, then I can get things rolling with them and because I'll schedule an appointment. It'll probably be 2 weeks before I see them anyway. So the sale will probably be the end of January. But there's plenty of time to.
And to your question, Travis, you have to, if it's over the $2,500 mark, notice of the sale has to be given at least twice. With the first publication not less than 10 days prior to the sale. It must be in the official newspaper of the political subdivision. Second publication may be in any legal newspaper of the state. So. And I'm sure Carrie is familiar with that. We do this all the time, so.
Move to declare these two items surplus.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Anything else, Andy?
No.
Oh, we've got a rest.
I guess before we move on, I think a part of this, right? Do we need to have 3 people appraise it?
I thought that was just real estate.
I don't think so. Staff the governing board of a political subdivision has made a determination to surplus property, 22613-1. Real property shall, so the governing board shall appoint 3 real property owners of the political subdivision to appraise the value. Such real property owner shall file a report of the appraisal with the fiscal officer of the political subdivision.
Would that be the purpose of that, to determine that it was less than the threshold, and that's why you didn't take the step we already did? So I guess I've always felt that if you're gonna surplus it, you've already made the
So-
determination.
Statute says that you do this after the determination to surplus. So first you do the determination to surplus, and then the governing board appoints 3 real property owners to appraise.
This is personal property.
It is personal property, and I'm trying to read through here, and we've done this before, but I don't see that that makes a determination. I think what the statute says is that there has to be real property owners are the ones that get appointed, but it says all property.
But is that, we only have to do that if we're gonna sell it ourselves, right?
No.
They have definitions in that section that
Let me,
specify that property is.
let me look into it, but we're not gonna, since we're gonna do another one next week, we can make the determination and you can appoint those people if it's necessary next week. Rather than me trying to work through statute.
I guess this statute defined real versus personal property, so.
Yeah, the real property part just means real property owners. That these appraisers can't be people from Sioux Falls. You know, can't be your kids. You know, it's real property owners. This is the intent that we have local residents. So. But I've always
Because
determined,
what's the point of the appraisal?
Determine whether or not it hits the $2,500 mark, which triggers the notice requirement prior to the sale.
Then what happens if it brings more than that on the auction? What if they determine it doesn't and then it brings more?
Then as long as you relied in good faith and had 3 individuals, 3 real property owners of the county who are skilled in making that determination, if it goes for over market or what they believe is market, then so be it. But I think that's really the obligations that you operate in good faith.
Wouldn't in a situation like this, where you actually have an invoice, because it's brand new in the box, does it need to be appraised?
I don't think that statute accounts for that because generally surplus items are going to be used. So I think you still would have to. I imagine the 3 property owners should rely heavily on those invoices. But I think you still probably have to make those individuals do that appraisal.
Does it go back to 4311 and 4312?
I'm just looking specifically at 613.
would it be unreasonable if I brought the documentation that I have in and then any one of these 3 commissioners or 3 people in this room could appraise it at that time next week?
Yeah, you absolutely could, because because first you have to surplus it, then you have to have the governing board appoints the 3 real property owners. That's it. So they can just appoint,
Appoint 3 of the commissioners to review the.
theoretically, they shouldn't, because then they're creating like a quorum, but yeah, you can appoint 3 property owners and then they can make that determination, and they can make that determination probably quickly here, given that you have invoices and then new items. Obviously, when it's 1987 VHS, it also might be quick, but there might be some nuance to that one too.
They don't even make those anymore.
But there's 3 property owners in this room that aren't commissioners, so. Be here next week. We good then, Michael, on that?
We are, yeah. Well, when you've now surplus, you have one more surplus next week. At that point, you can appoint someone if it's necessary to do the appraisal of all three items. And then that'll trigger the formal need for a notice, which they're gonna want to put in the same notice anyway. They're gonna want to put all three of these items. And in the meantime, Andy can begin that conversation with Purple Wave now.
And for Carrie, we've got a resolution for contingency transfer. That is 10,100 to judicial for catastrophic legal fund. 12,000 for the DOE, Department of Equalization.
Yep.
For data processing. And 3,000 to human resources and $25 to historic preservation.
I move to authorize the contingency transfers.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Other than I think we ended the year really well.
Great.
So kudos to the department heads for really watching the budgets this year and trying to avoid any unnecessary expenses.
I'd like to take credit for staying out of the way. Roll call.
Mochler,
Yes.
Graylow,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Easy,
Yes.
Gilbertson,
Yes.
Motion passes. Resolution for fund transfer. Use. $1,134,956 to the highway fund as levied for the 2025 budget.
Move to accept resolution 2025-41.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mochler,
Yes.
Graylow,
Yes.
Brady,
Yes.
Easy,
Yes.
Gilbertson.
Yes.
Motion passes. The employee handbook revisions for approval.
I think I got the red line copy to all of you to take a look at. We had a very, very long department head meeting to go over some of these things. Some of it's just cleanup stuff, just language. And some of it were items that we felt like needed to be clarified or changed to meet our current practices.
Yeah, it seemed like there's a lot of stuff related to transition to velocity in there and.
Yeah, and there was a lot that just, with that, it's good to have things as standard as we can, because when you start going to, different software programs, sometimes things are a little bit less manual, so then you can't have as much diversity. Payroll policies like vacation time, sick time, things like that, all automatically, either calculate towards overtime or not calculate towards overtime. You have to kind of have a standard there. So we're just trying to kind of get everybody on the same page.
It definitely looked like you put in a lot of work.
Good. Long meeting.
I had a couple questions, and the last thing I want to do is undo any of your hard work. So one of the more major changes in language, although not really in practice. So you noted in your sidebar that we don't have any halftime employees, and we haven't had any halftime employees for a while. But I did question whether we should, especially realizing that it's in several places throughout the handbook, and it seems like what's worked in there aligns with the rest of the handbook well, and that the definition of a halftime employee in our handbook seems well reasoned and fine. We just aren't using it right now. And so I wondered whether we should leave it in there just to allow the additional flexibility for departments. If you had somebody that maybe was close to retirement, didn't want to go all the way out, but they, didn't want to lose benefits, and you wanted to bring them down to halftime or something for a period, or, maybe a department is growing, but it isn't growing quite fast enough to require not a full-time employee, but a halftime employee, someone decided was appropriate. I wondered whether we should, even if we aren't using it now, we should leave something that seems like it's already kind of worked out carefully in there, so that we don't find ourselves needing to create that for a specific purpose, which seems like it would be harder and harder to do kind of even-handedly. So that was that was one area that I wanted to see what the other commissioners thought about and just open for discussion.
We talked about that. I think the last halftime person we had was probably what, 10 years ago? Something like that.
Linda Samantha Nelson was the last one.
Oh,
Maybe it wasn't quite 10 years then.
that's close.
A while.
Anyway,
We should trust,
seven part-time.
we should trust what the department heads decide. They're the ones dealing with this day after day, so.
Is this something you see potentially happening or?
Wouldn't they just be labeled part-time?
Also, it seems like the real distinction there is that, so part-time employees are not benefit eligible.
Correct.
So you are either a full-time employee if you're benefit eligible, or you are not benefit eligible if you're a part-time employee. And so that seemed like the real distinction in the half-time employees. It allows you to have like prorated buy-in to some of the, like for the insurance, I think if I remember that correctly. So it's like you could get the health insurance, but you're not going to get as much of a buy-in from the county, I think, as you would
Right.
otherwise. And it's got those sort of things balanced out to give the possibility for someone to be less than full-time, but due to whatever reason the department had thought, benefit eligible.
What it's worth, I think a lot of the people that we had that were halftime didn't take the insurance because it was gonna be cost prohibitive for them. You get to that halftime point and our benefit policy was that then if the county pays, say 50% of family, then that halftime person is only getting 25% of the family paid. So then why take the insurance? So the benefits just became kind of a moot point for those people.
Is a person able to buy into South Dakota retirement system as a half-time employee?
Yes, I believe they could.
That one seemed potentially valuable. It's a good retirement system. And I think particularly if you had somebody like maybe towards the end of, they've been with us for a while or something, we want them to be able to keep contributing if they've done that already for a while. Those are my thoughts on it, when I'm one of 5 commissioners, just.
Generally speaking too, because retirement uses your last so many quarters of employment. Generally, a person who's gonna retire wants
Doesn't want to go down to.
wants their wages to be higher towards it. Because otherwise, then they're shooting themselves in the foot. They don't get as much of a monthly payment as they would have otherwise.
I think the bigger issue with the benefited part-time people is gonna be the leave, whether they get paid days off. If they're a benefited half-time employee and there's a holiday, well, they don't work, but they get paid just like anybody else, but they also then get sick time. And so then they can take the days off sick, which is one thing if they're sick, but they take it off for a doctor appointment, they're gonna schedule a doctor appointment during their working hours, so they get the sick leave for it. And then we still have to cover them. It's not a big deal. I don't think anybody really has any strong feelings about it. It's just not something we use, so we took it out.
We can't design employee manuals around every what if scenario. And it's not set in stone. If we need to change, we can change it later.
Did you have anything else to please?
I had one other, or a couple other questions. So I saw the change in the page 13, the non-exempt employees, the comp time accrual rules. And so we previously had all law enforcement. So everybody who's benefited could accrue up to 24 hours of comp time. Law enforcement was allowed to accrue up to 40. And then this change would make it so that, is it all active duty military?
I think that was the intent.
Yeah, I don't think law enforcement ever had the 40 maybe, and that's one of the cleanup things.
That's the red light.
The 40-hour cutoff was for people that are military guard and reserves. Cause they use it. So what happens in a Monday through Friday occupation, people that do the military, they take their weekend drills and that's what they spend their weekend on. Law enforcement, jail, they tend to have to take leave to do their weekend drill and it eats up their leave balances. So they prefer to use their comp time toward that or any unused holiday toward that and not have to use up all of their leave. And then what happens then come then they'll have the 2 week AT and then they're using even more of their leave and then they don't have any time to take with their family for other times. So they tend to like to hold on to, well, we can't let them build up indefinitely. So we raised that threshold to 40. And that's how we operated for many years, is that they would have a 40-hour balance that they could use. And so I think we just kind of cleaned that up. It's not intended just for law enforcement, but for people in Guard and Reserve. Now, people outside of law enforcement, it's probably not a big problem. As a matter of fact, I doubt there are any on the county, but if they were to build that up, they would probably use it on the AT anywhere. AT is the 2 weeks where they go full time. But some of these folks, they might go active for weeks at a time, multiple times a year anymore. It used to be just 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer, and now it's frequently.
Okay, and I think my only thought there was, is that something that we should just allow everyone to accrue up to 40? And if it doesn't get beyond that, it gets paid out at the end of the year. And
Not in my office.
No?
I can't get I can't get those holidays used. I can't get the comp time used, so I'm prohibiting comp time accrual at all for any of my staff, except for people in the Guard and Reserve. It's just, they can't use the holidays on the holidays. And so then we have to find another day to get them to take it off, and so then we're always working shorthanded, trying to get everybody out the door to use their holidays and their unused comp, and then you want to add, an additional amount of comp balance to that, and we wouldn't be able to get it used. We have some jailers that we're just got to pay out during this holiday this year.
So is the 40 is adequate for you? Because 2 weeks is 80.
Yeah, it'd be fine with me if it was greater, because they use it. The ones in the reserves do use that. Now, if they were Monday to Friday employees, they wouldn't. It might be hard, well, except for their annual orders, but
Well, and occasionally there's mu to fives too, where you go on Friday.
what's that?
Occasionally there's mu to fives where
Yeah.
it's you go
Yeah.
on Friday afternoon, so.
Yep. Yeah, I've got one that's E8 now in the Navy Reserve. She drills more often. We'll do longer times there because of her rank. And so yeah, she'll use it. So yeah, I wouldn't object to that as long as it was only those folks. And then I would still be able to, require them to use it rather than to hoard it. Say, well, I don't want to use it. I want to take time off unpaid and hold the holiday for my summer vacation with the family. I wouldn't permit that.
Yeah, that was gonna be my other question. Can they use it at other times or just for military?
No, I want them to use their leave. The
No, I mean,
hard
their-
part is getting.
In their comp time. The time is for military only.
I can tell you what we do in our office now is that if they've got unused holiday and they put in a leave request, that's what we charge against first. And then any unused comp time before we charge against their leave, their vacation. Because then policy takes that away. It makes them have to be conscious about using that leave. I don't like it when they take time off unpaid. It's hard for Carrie, hard for me to manage that when they go unpaid, because you have to convert them to hourly for the month and pay them for the month. Hourly, then convert them back to a benefited full-time. And so I'd rather have that leave balance there for them to use rather than take time off unpaid.
Are you good with 40 or would you like to see it up to 80?
I wouldn't object to 80. 40's been working for us, but it's rare that anybody gets to 40. They tend
Military.
Yeah, for military.
for military only, yeah.
Yeah, you said
If you
it.
raise it, that'd be fine, but it's pretty rare that anybody hits 40 anyway.
Okay.
They turn around and use 2 week or 16 hours every month anyway.
Sure.
But yeah, if you want to change it to 80, I wouldn't object to that. Then the question would come, and it kind of happened here because we adapt this policy to where it gets paid out at the end of the year. And so I had Shannon Kamala, she had 24 hours of leave, and the policy required that she got paid that out. Now she's back at zero. So if she had 80, according to current policy, she get paid that out at the end of December. We'd have to, if we did raise that any higher, we definitely need to change the policy to allow them to carry over. Now, within my office, I've always allowed them to carry over comp and holiday if they're in the reserves. Just because, like, for example, she's got AT coming up in February and she doesn't have any leave left. Cause you get paid out.
But you can't carry it over if it's comp time.
Yeah, that's something we should adjust it because that's
Yeah.
not what the language reads right
The
now.
language in there now is that you can't carry it over.
Yeah, that it's paid out. It specifies it shall be paid out, I think.
Now, and I want that, but not for the reserves. People in
And
government
that's
service,
easy enough
it's
just to
helpful
add
if
that
you
in
can carry
there.
it over.
You know, but just the military would get, you know, gonna add that language in there. And that it-
The
that they would
Military
carry over,
they would be allowed to carry over.
Yeah, that would be very helpful, whether it's 40 or 80, if they could carry it over.
Did we need to have that rewritten before we vote on it if we choose that or does we do?
I think we just.
These are minor, make the motion.
I think you can make them,
I'll make a motion that we approve the revisions with the addition of the changes for the military to carry over
And to 80 hours.
into 80 hours.
I'll second that.
Cause I trust our department heads, know more than we do on this.
Well, it's pretty much just for Andy's folks anyway, because.
Yeah.
I would just say that if there's additional language, the 80-hour change, I believe we can do here, but if there's additional language, that should be contemplated and brought back here. If there's a need to add some language, I believe it'd be proper here to make a motion to approve what has been modified and change the 40 to 80, but if there's additional language, you should hold off on passing that.
We
until that
can't
gets brought
add
back.
the,
We can't.
carry over the military can carry over their comp.
That's not incorporated in the changes, is it?
It's not, but I mean, it would be like 3 or 4 words.
I think just having an abundance of caution, let's just make make the changes as written. You can move the 40 to 80. That's not, that's a clerical numeric change. Adding the language though, just bring it back on the 6th.
Well. So technically, I think what we'd be doing, so I was mistaken. Shall is a change. May is the language that was in there before. I'm going back to the red line one. So you were correct. You can carry it over. It may be paid to the employee the last period of the year, but it doesn't say it shall be. So if we simply, approve the revisions except for that one, changing may to shall, then we wouldn't be changing the current policy.
Where do you see that at?
Page 13.
Does that include comp and holiday?
This says use of compensatory time will be scheduled and approved by the department head and must be taken by year's end. If employee is unable to use the time, it previously may be paid to employee the last pay period of the year.
And then, for our purposes, it would be helpful if they could carry over holiday as well. And actually, truthfully, that'd be across the board. What happens is, you look at Christmas, this year we had 2 holidays and then an administrative day off. And I have to cover the shifts. I can't let them go. And here they are at the end of the year. So here we are this week with almost nobody working because we're trying to get those holidays used. So
And that's in a totally different section.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
that's a different section, but having this year-end deadline for vacation, comp and holiday is really rough for us. I really can't honor leave it less than October, November, December, because there's so many holidays.
and I think the intention, if I can imagine an intention, it would be to simplify things for you and make sure people aren't sitting on balances
Yeah.
at the end of the year, just start it all over, but if that's
Yeah.
kind of harder.
Exactly. And again, we have our own practice and our own policy in the office that we draw from these in order. So that if they want to take time off in January, it's going to come from any carried over holiday anyway. And then it's still on them come the end of June to get their vacation balance under 180 or 160. Because they'll lose it, because that's the policy that we have, and that's all good. It makes them look at the calendar and find make plans to take time off. That's what we want them to do. That's why we give them the time. But having everything goes away December 31st makes it really tough. Because we don't want them to lose their time. So then, we ended up covering a lot of shifts to get people out the door. Well, then that person that's covering the shift ends up earning comp time that they can't use. And so then we just pay it out as overtime. So it's costly then too. Which is why we added those part-timers to help us cover shifts, part-timers at straight time instead of full-timers at overtime.
Now we're talking about.
A lot of revisions all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yep. I thought we kind of beat all these things into the ground at the meeting, but maybe. We didn't.
Sorry.
We thought we did.
We've really got in the weeds on whether a day is 10 hours or a day is 8 hours and what happens if, you know.
I'd like to see the military folks taken care of, so that's, hate to see them use all their leave for annual training for sure.
I agree with that. And also it having them be allowed to carry over benefits the rest of the office too, because then they don't have to work so hard to cover these shifts. Spread it out a little better, especially in December.
What do we need to do, Michael?
Well, I think at this point you can either table it. Dave made a motion. I would just ask that just to ensure that we're not overstepping, that Dave's motion was proper. But for my request would be that you eliminate the additional language. So other than the 80 hours, changing the 40 hours comp time to 80, you could move forward on that motion. And then,
Well, I can rescind my motion and table it.
and I was gonna say, or you can rescind the motion, table it and just do one swoop. And then, if we can bring something back to next meeting, it'd be nice to have it in place, I'm sure, going into 2026, so that it's new year, new revised.
Yeah, I'll rescind my motion and table it.
Yeah, it'll be new. I mean, all of our balance will be resolved by this week. Carrie and I are already talking about that. It'll be a fresh new year come next meeting.
I've got a motion to table. Do I have a second. I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those.
I have just one, I just it keeps eating me a little bit. I know how hard it can be to develop policies. And so I just was gonna ask the department heads to just, between now and when we revisit this, think if you can imagine a situation when it might be useful to have that halftime classification in there. And certainly if nobody can think of a reason why they would ever want to have that in their toolbox potentially for hiring or retaining somebody, then I don't see any reason to keep it in there. But just, since we're taking a little bit more time to think about it, I know it's easy to say we can always just add it back in, but when you look at it being in several places in there, it's like, hey, if we've already worked out the details on this and it's and in a challenging, it's hard to hire people, it's hard to retain people. And if that's a little bit of a carrot that we might be able to offer to keep somebody good on or bring somebody good in, then it seems like why not keep it in there? Because it's not for every single eventuality. It's just, if we've already done the work of working out that policy, maybe we shouldn't cut it. So there's my.
I can speak to that. I've had part-time or half-time people in our office in the past, and they didn't like it.
Okay.
There's too much to learn in our offices, and only being there part-time every day, they're at a loss.
Yeah.
They're at a loss. I mean,
Takes them twice as long to onboard. And
exactly. And there's just too much happening all the time. And they just felt, they literally would leave because they just didn't feel a part of the office. They couldn't get a grasp on it. So it's like, I know, my office, and I think the other courthouse offices are all the same. And there's just too much you need to know, too much changing all the time, that a half-time or part-time employee just doesn't sit well with the job that we do.
Yeah.
And kind of what my office has had, both the hourly, I wouldn't call it part-time entirely because it's, Ina coming in and filling out, but then we also had Linda who was half-time. I think the general consensus is that the time position does a disservice to the employee and a disservice to the county. Like that benefits package looks good, but like Carrie explained, they're really.
It's too hard to
not.
buy into.
And then when you're getting that closer to retirement, you're shooting yourself in the foot. When you're looking at the benefit payout, financially, it didn't make sense.
That makes sense.
I think the value might be is if there's that employee that just really wants, let's say a retired person that wants to come in and work part-time, that they don't have to take time off unpaid on a holiday. So that's the value to the employee is that, the courthouse is closed, they still get paid like everybody else rather than they have to take day off unpaid.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some value in that to the employee, but yeah, vacation, things like that.
It's the healthcare
Insurance, healthcare, yeah, that's what I meant to say. I don't object to leaving it in by any means. It's just that we don't use it, so we struck it.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a motion to table. All those in favor say aye.
I
Both same sign, motion passes. Scott, Building Information System contract for approval.
Yeah, so what I have here is a contract from the train for what they call connected services. I asked the building automation system at the courthouse. It's basically a computerized system where it's running all the HVAC equipment, all the fan coil units, boilers, chiller, etc. So yeah, it's kind of, I'm not gonna claim to be any kind of expert on this. It's computerized. It's kind of, I've dealt with some of these in the past. When at the safety center, we had a Menesis from Johnson Controls, pretty old antiquated system. We didn't have any kind of backup on it like this, like they're proposing here. I guess I could see benefit to it, because if there's a glitch going on in the background or something, they're monitoring it at the backside, and hopefully they can pick up on it, would prevent us from having a meltdown in the system and stuff not coming on and working properly. For what it's worth, the same system is in this building too.
I was gonna ask about that, yeah.
By train.
Okay.
And so it comes with a pretty good price tag, I think. You know, it's just the whole computerized world just boggles my mind, how they monitor all this and take care of it. But they claim they'll be on this, they'll be watching it, monitoring it, and collecting data, hopefully letting us know if we're headed to something going wrong. They're gonna be spotting anomalies in there. Maybe we have something that we've overridden and forgotten about. They'll pick up on it, and we'll get a phone call or something, and we'll get reports from them on how things are working and going. And they'll give you what you're saving on energy reports, that type of stuff too. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's about. And I'm pretty sure, you know, if there's any software upgrades, that sort of thing, you know, they'll be on top of that. We'll get those. I guess if we were to go without it, you know, we're kind of on our own as far as that system. That is our system. We have paid for it. I'm not sure what all that exists when it comes to software and that kind of stuff. But that was part of that. We purchased that with that mechanical, electrical, plumbing upgrade at the courthouse in 2023. So, you know, we've been doing fine. Everything's been working fine on. We haven't had any problems on there. So I guess it's just kind of like an insurance program, I guess, on it.
So it was interesting. I didn't really understand what it was at first, so I tried to read it somewhat closely, and it's not insurance in the sense that they won't, if they discover something's wrong, they don't pay you anything. You still pay for it.
You know, I'm sure you are. Yeah, I mean, if it's hardware or something that needs to be replaced, whatever. Yeah.
It seemed like by my reading, the biggest advantage would be that the ongoing monitoring was going to be coupled with data-driven balancing of all the systems and calibration of the systems in ways that would hopefully save us energy and therefore cost long term. The price tag is, you know, not nothing, and I did love that it goes up 5% every year. So it's a 5-year contract, and they're assuming 5% inflation the next 5 years, I guess, or they're anticipating some additional profit every year. But yeah, so it's, I think, $6,000 essentially the first year, and then up to eventually $7,050 in the 5th year. So it seems desirable, and I think especially if it's a system that's designed to be coupled with this kind of monitoring, then we probably aren't going to realize all the benefits of having the system, and we might mess something up, I guess, if we don't have it. But I was curious to hear your explanation of what exactly this is and how it fits into.
Obviously, they get more and more complicated all the time. The Menesis system at the safety center, I don't know how many years that had been there. Johnson Controls. I've never once had a software meltdown of any kind since I've been there. I don't know if Andy had in the past or not, but you know, it's one of them things you do damn if you don't, you know. It's just
And it seems like it like tracks, you know, as people are adjusting their thermostats in their seats and things like that. It seems like the idea is that it tracks all those things and helps get it dialed into maybe more comfortable spaces. Did you get that impression as well, or?
Well, it's all that system's always kind of self-monitoring itself through different sensors throughout the building in each room and outside air and outside air temperatures. You got the energy recovery unit bringing in fresh air. They're all communicating, talking through this BAS. And it's always tweaking and adjusting. And, oh yeah.
I'll move to authorize the chairman to sign the contract.
Second. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion passes. Michael, open meeting laws.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand out what's the conducting the public's business and public here to the commissioners. This is the guide prepared by the South Dakota Attorney General's office. I'm sure most of you, probably all of you have seen it before. I'll be trying to be quick about this. My intention is there's now an annual review of open meeting laws pursuant to SCCL 12513 that was implemented July 1 of this year. It requires that all public bodies that are required to follow the open meeting laws annually review the laws. So here we are. I just think out of an abundance of caution, it was adopted July 1 of 2025. So here we are, the last meeting of 2025. We will do what I'm going to call a quick review. My intention moving forward will be to do an annual review 2026. I won't give it to you next meeting because that would be probably the worst timing. So we'll probably shoot for the middle of 2026. And then on those years where we're going to have potentially some changes on this commission, we'll do a more comprehensive review at the very beginning of the year. My intention now moving forward will be that mostly. So I'll quickly go through this. And if you guys have questions, feel free to stop me, or I can take some questions at the end. Either way, I did the same with the planning commission last planning commission meeting as well, because they also are a board, a county board that's obligated under meeting laws. So 125.1 is the basic rule. It states that all official meetings of any public body are open to the public unless a specified law is cited to close that meeting. That'd be an executive session. The purpose, right, is to prohibit actions being taken at secret meetings where it's impossible for the interested public to become fully informed and to detect improper influence. That's a South Dakota Supreme Court quote from a 1984 case. So this, of course, isn't new. So, of course, you guys sit as a commission. Public body is defined in 125 to include this commission. Other boards, of course, also fall into that, including our planning and zoning commission. You are a political subdivision. A public body is a political subdivision of the state. So what's not a public body? From time to time, we create committees or task force. They're generally not going to fall under their same requirements because they don't have sovereign power and authority, nor are they created by ordinance or resolution. We've had this before. We have a current task force. We bring recommendations to the commission. The obligation then pursuant to law is for you guys to hear the recommendation, to table the decision, and then move forward either with or against that recommendation at a subsequent meeting. Essentially, again, providing more transparency and opportunity for the public to be heard after a committee or task force comes in and makes a recommendation. Official meeting, right, is always the interesting one where people tend to get in trouble, and honestly is sometimes the most difficult one to ensure that we're complying with. An official meeting pursuant to 125.12 is any meeting of a quorum of a public body at which official business or public policy of that public policy is discussed or decided, whether in person or by means of teleconference or electronic means. So there's three elements, three requirements in order to be an official meeting. One, it has to be a public body. So here, the five of you constitute the public body of the Clay County Commission. There must be a quorum. So three of you, if any two of you are in a room, of course, public policy can't be decided because you're not in a quorum. And then a discussion or decision, and it has to also be of official business, has to be contemplated. So public body, quorum, and essentially business, right? Official business or public policy. That constitutes an official meeting. Whether or not you intended to or not, doesn't matter. That is an official meeting, and whether or not you complied with law or not is really what that hinges on, right? As to whether or not you're in violation of law. So official meetings are held, regular meetings of the body. We do ours right now, right? First, second, and last Tuesday of the month. But what about lunches, right? We see this from time to time. I think we've been very diligent about that. Not having three of you going out to Bunyan's together, generally going to be the right move. Don't go to Bunyan's after this and have lunch with three of you, because it's going to be perceived as potentially a violation. Of course, if you don't discuss public policy, it's actually not a violation, but very difficult to contest, and doesn't look good, of course, from a public perspective. Sporting events, different story. Multiple of you probably have been at USD games or Vermillion High School games, and likely not sitting together, and also not there to discuss public policy. You're there watching the game, but be cautious of that. Email discussion, something that we deal with here quite a bit. Emails do constitute official meetings. An official meeting specifically recognizes electronic means. And an electronic means is defined as emails, instant messaging, social media, text messages, virtual meeting platforms. We, of course, make sure that we do blind CCs. We request that you guys not respond to all commissioners when we're emailing out different items. However, although we're very cautious with this, communications for scheduling purposes are excluded, but just as a general practice, we always ensure that we're blind CCing commissioners. I do, Gary does. Of course, sometimes you may get emails from the public that's not the case. You may get emails from other members of the county, and just ensure that when you see that you're not replying all. If you see that you've got an email and it's not on just don't assume it's a blind CC. So that once you start responding, and if it is a quorum present and it's public policy being discussed, you could have just created an official meeting in which you're in violation of law. So be conscious of that. The exceptions to that, what are not official meetings, also found in statute. If you attend a press conference called by a representative of the public body, that is not an official meeting, even if a quorum is present, or if it's a non-governmental entity where the public body does not control the agenda. We do that from time to time, but what we do and what we have to do to be in compliance with law is we post notice of agendas to include the date, time, and the location. We have to give public notice. Carrie handles that. Of course, we do that via proposed agendas, which we then later at the meetings, we finalize agendas, but the proposed agendas are hung continuous 24 hours immediately preceding the meeting. They're also posted on the website. Carrie does a great job of ensuring that's done. Public comment is required of almost all public meetings. 125.1 accounts for public comment. Of course, this board's allowed to limit the public body's amount of time that they have to discuss during public comment. Always, though, ensure that it's a reasonable time to avoid any First Amendment violation allegations of violations of freedom of speech. So, and we do a good job with that. I know we've always allowed for public comment. The only time we don't have to account for public comment is if we're holding a meeting specific for executive session, an inauguration or swearing in, or a presentation of an annual report. So in almost all of our meetings, we're going to account for a public comment period. The public is allowed to video record or audio record all of our meetings so long as they're reasonable, obvious, and not disruptive. Boards have gotten in trouble with that. Of course, it's not a free-for-all. Someone can't come in here and be disruptive. But so long as they are reasonable, obvious, and not disruptive, anyone's allowed to come in here and record the meetings that we're holding. Of course, we record them ourselves anyway, so I don't think that we would find that to be an issue here. I won't go into a long discussion on executive session, but we host executive sessions from time to time. We're doing one after this as well as in a separate meeting. There's specific reasons why we're permitted to do executive sessions, and we're all very conscious now about what we're doing them for. There's 6 enumerated reasons why you're allowed to go into executive session. State law does state, though, that you're not limited to those. There may be reasons such as attorney-client privilege, economic development information, some sort of federal or state statute or constitutional provision that permits you to go into an executive session. Those come up very, very rarely, but there are 6 enumerated reasons and then also a carve out for There may also be another reason you may need to. But if we do go into executive session, right? Kevin's been my guy recently of hitting the reason why, as well as a statute that ensures that we're complying with law very well. Teleconference, we do hold teleconference meetings from time to time, including one we just did. The rules on that do change a little bit, and Carrie and I make sure that we're really ensuring that we're following the law when we are doing a teleconference only meeting. When we do that, members must answer that they're present during roll call in order to partake in the meeting. You can do a voice vote, just like we do here in person, unless there is a vote in the negative, at which point you have to do a roll call. So that's one that we always can't remember is it always a roll call? It's only a roll call if somebody votes in the negative, and then on a teleconference only meeting, like the one we did last meeting, then we'd have to go back and say, let's do a roll call. So, voice vote only is fine so long as everyone's in agreement.
What happens if they miss roll call?
If a member, you have to be present in order during roll call to participate in a teleconference only meeting.
What if they come in after roll call?
I think then they're not permitted to participate in that meeting.
Really?
I believe so.
Okay.
And I'd have to look back at that statute. I don't have it in front of me.
Now, is that just when you say teleconference, does that include the Zoom?
It does.
Yeah.
Yep. Teleconference is defined very broadly.
Okay.
I'll pull that up real quick. 125.12.
There a way to remedy that?
Ask the task force.
Yeah. It's two members sitting here at the table.
Want us to fix it?
Well, I'm just wondering, I mean, if you're 5 minutes late to a meeting for some reason.
Yeah.
And you miss roll call, that you can't participate in that meeting?
She can record though what time that person got there, right?
You generally
As
do.
long as that's in the minutes, then
So I'm looking at 125, 1.5, and 1.6. A member, 125, 1.5, second sentence, a member is deemed present if the member answers presence to the roll call conducted by teleconference for the purpose of determining a quorum.
So could you have a second roll call?
I think
Somebody
you
else
could have
comes in and be like, all right, looks like, Jeffrey just showed up. We do another roll call and then I'd say present and then we're in it.
I believe you could.
How does that work if you've already passed it?
Well, you're determining a quorum. So if there isn't a quorum,
But if there is a quorum,
then I think so long as because it says for purposes of determining a quorum. So I guess it doesn't say for purposes of determining who can vote later. It's really determining if there is a quorum or not. So here, so long as 3 are present at the time that roll call is passed, you can have the quorum. That language is not, I mean, it's certainly, I think, confusing. I think the safest route though would be to go back and just do a second roll call. Just to ensure that there is no question if that were to come up in the future for us.
And really, like practically speaking, with Zoom meetings and maybe people distributed around the state or something, you could have an instance where it might become unclear whether you still have a quorum.
And there could be,
You know,
yes.
somebody, are they unmiked and they don't have their camera on or are they not there anymore? So it seems like you have to be able to keep doing roll calls.
I agree. And great example of that was right with our task force, which I think does fall under, potentially falls under the open meeting laws. And there was a lot of people appearing on Zoom, and that's a commission of, or a task force of 15 or 18 people.
Right.
So figuring out a quorum is a moving target there. I mean, obviously with 5, it's generally a fairly easy thing to figure out, but right, when you've got more people, and that's why I think teleconference probably requires that, because there can be some amount of concern about that, especially with larger bodies. Here, we don't have a larger body, so. So the notice requirement for teleconference meetings, posting and agenda requirements are the same. You do have to allow for 1 or more places for the public to listen and participate in an actual space. So we do that in the commission, in Carrie's office generally. The last agenda you saw, that was a teleconference only. Said if you're a member of the public and you'd like to participate in this teleconference only meeting, you can do so at the auditor's office. Carrie could choose if she wanted to do it down in the in the commission room moving forward, but of course there's construction, so she chose just her office. So we still have the requirement. The public could appear via Zoom as well, but if they want to appear in person, they're not precluded from participating during a teleconference meeting. We just have to provide them essentially an avenue for them to still be able to participate. So.
So I don't want to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
We've got interviews starting here in 10 minutes.
Yes,
Do we want to finish anything else up before
I've
that?
got 2 slides left.
Okay.
So, and then. All right, so I'll move on from teleconferences, meeting minutes. We don't really need to get into anything on meeting minutes. Again, that's really on Carrie. It's funny, it's another thing that could be changed is 125.3 requires state entities to keep minutes. There's still a requirement in SDCL 710.1 that the county auditor keep record of official proceedings. So and similarly, Chapter 9 does the same for municipalities. But there are requirements, of course, for meeting minutes. Here, Carrie, do you put our videos up within 5 days of the meeting? So if you don't do that, you must make unapproved minutes available within 10 business days, but everything starts to move a little bit with so long as there's a video or audio recording that's available on the website within 5 business days of the meeting. But you make minutes
Either
available.
way, I have the minutes done within 10 days, so
Perfect.
not a problem.
So, like I told you, my intention was to be quick. That's about as quick as I can go. You guys have all now been here at least a year, if not a lot more. It always seems to be a little bit of a moving target though, because the language of these statutes are A, always moving, and B, vague enough to be interpreted in different ways. Any questions from the commission? We'll do this again in 2026 because it's a requirement, and my intention again is, especially on those election years where if there are changes on this board, then we'll hit it a lot harder on those years. But this was about 10 or 12 minutes. Any questions, concerns, comments?
Are you in the interviews?
I think so. Yeah,
I've got a lot of questions, so we'll need to meet.
sure.
Because all of my boards are basically hit that public meeting. I just need to know like publishing minutes and all of that.
So you're talking boards within the county?
Yes,
So you're probably okay. Let's have a meeting, but so as long as you're not, if you don't exercise sovereign power, then you're not gonna meet the requirement, then you don't have to meet the requirements. Now, it's always good to be transparent, of course, but
well, except that the state tells me I am.
okay, let's have a conversation then.
Sure.
I'll come find you after the meetings.
Okay, or next week or sure.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Time are we supposed to start these?
10:15.
15. I do want to conduct an executive session. Well, there's more on this agenda, so we could recess and continue the meeting after.
I'll make a motion to recess.
One second. We've got 8 minutes yet. Do we need to?
Should we do it?
Quick.
What's that?
Vouchers, quick.
Well, I can do the next one, that discussion regarding the meeting schedule. I just wanted to bring that up for you guys to think about for next week when we reorganize.
Okay.
See what you think about going to a meeting every other week instead of 3 times a month. Instead of the first, second, and last, just go every other week. Then we don't have to have a 3-week gap between. And it is actually less meetings. But it's just something to think about.
Big change. All right.
Great.
But we'll always have to have a meeting the first Tuesday in January. By state statute, right? Because you gotta
Yes.
organize that day.
Yeah.
So no matter if we hit the last Tuesday of the year, there will be a meeting
The next year.
the next Tuesday at the beginning of the year.
We want to try to get through the other stuff quick, or is it?
Well, Mike is gonna have stuff. I mean, we can keep going. We can do vouchers. Payroll. And we got to see the vouchers and then the one Carrie just sent out for the Rafe project.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. I think the building project's gonna take a little bit. Right, Glenn?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so then should I move to recess so people can have a little bathroom break or anything? If you want that? If we're gonna have to pick it up again
yeah,
anyway.
that's fine.
All right, move to recess until after the interviews have been completed.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All say sign for recess.
Did you have something you wanted to get through quick before we?
No.
No, okay.
No, I was saying field goal.
Be able to kill the microphones, Carrie.
Yep.
Here.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me when we stopped recording, they could still hear so many. Is it here?
Oh.
I think Commissioner use that.
Okay.
We're back in regular session. Now we've got commissioner reports. It's building project update.
Well, we had bad news. A couple days ago, we're told we have to put a sprinkler system in. And that's gonna add a lot of money. If that was 141,832, which we were not planning on, so. That brings us to 223,165 and. That's about 70-some thousand over our budget. So,
And I know Lloyd certainly expects contingencies inside the courthouse that they haven't maybe ran into. yet.
yeah, and that sprinkler number is probably low. Because they're gonna have to do ceiling work and. He did say that's a bare bones estimate, so we can figure that's gonna be higher. So.
So I'm just gonna pause real quick. So we came out of executive session. Did we also adjourn that meeting and then come out of recess for this other meeting? Because these are listed as two different meetings.
Did we ever restart this meeting?
I don't think that we did. So I was just thinking that we should go ahead and do that so we can get back into.
Yeah, adjourn that first meeting and then, all right,
So
so
I moved to come out of executive, or did we do that, right? We came out of executive session, we have a motion on that? I don't know if we did. Okay, I moved that we come out of executive session. Somebody second me.
Okay, a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I
Pose same sign. Motion passes.
moved that we adjourn
from
Come on,
second meeting.
from the second meeting, the executive session meeting. Yep.
Get a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I,
Pose same sign.
and then I moved that we come out of recess on our meeting that started at 9 AM this morning.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Thank you. I apologize, Glenn.
Nope.
Yep.
It's a great catch. I know where you're looking at emails.
Continue on.
So. We're. I guess we're looking for direction. We visited earlier in our committee discussions and. I personally would like to go before the council. Michael and I met with both Johns at City Hall and they were not very receptive to them having to pay for any of this. They were casting blame, I would say, or doubts at least, on our contractor. There are the timeline in all this was very harmful to us because we already made decisions on our budget, what we were going to spend on certain things. And very late in the process, we were told about needing the sprinkler. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to change anything. I think we're going to have to do it no matter what, because they're citing code requirements based on occupancy. That'd be fair to say. And we're gonna have to do it. The only question is if we can get them to pitch in on this.
So is it because the occupancy changed or the amount of remodeling or
Decided to both of those.
both of those, yeah. In their mind, it's changed. The usage is what's changing in their mind. It's now being called a commercial or business type of space. Whereas before it was a specific towards law enforcement. So,
Well, they considered it commercial when we tried to buy it. And that's what they based, that's what they based it on.
That's what they tried to sell it to us as.
Yeah.
so
So,
speaking,
so it didn't change that way.
yeah, and as to that point, let's see now. We paid for that, September 30th was the first payment. October 14th was the second payment. Just over 200,000. October 21st, the permit was signed by the city. And on December 16th is when we were told that we needed sprinklers based on code. And I did raise that question that day, is why didn't you tell us sooner? And they kind of blame themselves for lack of communication, but at the end of the day, we were sitting in the dark all that time, almost 2 months. So they knew this thing needed sprinklers before, in my mind. They've had fire personnel in our meeting room over there and nothing was ever said. And
And I think I would follow up by saying that this is something that has been repeatedly a serious challenge for businesses attempting to remodel. I mean, they've had people come before them and request variances around this. So I think in my mind, that gives a lot of weight to them that they should have been able to foresee that this is something we would want to know about early on. They've repeatedly had issues with other people saying, wow, I have to put what kind of fire suppression system? It's gonna cost me twice as much as what I expected my remodel to be. Like, I don't
Wasn't this an issue?
have a lot of patience for saying that this is something they're like, oh, we just realized, like, come on.
we should have known about it on October 21st. That's the date of the permit. So.
Yeah.
How does our contract read with all this?
Well, no, that's.
Yeah, so I don't want to get into a contract,
Okay.
and actually, I've got an executive session on
Okay,
the agenda
all right.
specific to this issue.
All right.
And perhaps we should enter that executive session before a lot more conversation takes place. I think that most of this conversation should take place open, but as it relates to contract specifically,
Gotcha.
I want to do that inside an executive session.
So I don't know how far to go now. That's,
So
everything that I've said is documented, it's public record, it's what happened.
So ultimately, this is a request essentially for a change order. This commission has granted Glenn the ability to sign off on a change order under $50,000. This is above that. So this is just a discussion piece for today. Certainly no movement on one way or the other. It's a good opportunity to inform the commission. There are some things about this we should discuss in an executive session as well, but absolutely. I mean, I think, it's gonna be a topic on a very future agenda that's gonna have to have a decision.
for clarity, just for my notes, so Glenn, I heard you reference a couple numbers there. So what was the total change order amount for adding this? Was it 70 or?
41.
I remember. 140.
141, 832. I'm rounding on those.
Okay, and so that would be a change order, an additional 141, 832 for a whole fire suppression system. There was no fire suppression system spec'd in the original.
No, because the
Discussion.
permit said to maintain what you currently have
Okay.
for fire.
Okay.
Which is heat sensors.
Okay.
That do actually work. It's being floated that they were not functioning anyway. They do work.
So if you recall, the riser was installed in the commission room in 2023 for the MEP project in the courthouse that included fire suppression. At that time, though, you know, there was, from what I understand, it was, the decision was made to place the riser in that room because of its proximity to the street and the ease of working in that room compared to working in the courthouse itself, which is what's serving it. But this building, the Public Safety Center was built in 1988. Fire code, of course, at the time didn't mandate these, you know, didn't mandate the fire suppression system, which is why now the city's, the information we're getting from the city and the fire marshal is that now with this remodel, A, because of the demo, and B, because of the change of use, it's, as well as the fact that they're now categorizing the building as being one building rather than two. That for all of those reasons, and I don't think any of them, I think any of them independently, the city would say, the fire marshal would say that you've now triggered your requirement to come to code, and they've adopted the 2018 International Fire Code, which is what's on the books, which is what they're relying on for mandating this now in the county.
And that was in effect when they were a partial owner of the building. So.
Correct.
They'd have been better off not putting maintain on that building permit. If they'd have put nothing, I could have believed, well, yeah, somebody missed the ball, but they specifically put on their maintain current.
Yeah, they specifically knew it.
You have that.
Yeah, it says, life safety systems must continue to be maintained.
If they would have put nothing, then I'd have been like, well, yeah, I suppose that's how they generally operate, because they're telling us that these things come in later, and that's general practice. Well, you wrote it on there that we got to maintain what we have.
But at this point, we don't really have options.
No, we'll have an executive session.
Yeah.
And when we get to that, we'll discuss that, but then ultimately there will be, I mean, no decision can be made here today. Ultimately, this information sharing, and then we'll table it for another meeting for a decision.
I would suggest that you do that promptly though, because the project has basically come to a halt.
Correct.
They can't continue on the same, as you know, this meeting was supposed to be back there, but it can't be there until the sprinklers are in place. They can't do any more ceiling work, any more floor work. They have to make wall perforations that they haven't done because they don't know if they're gonna do this. Delaying that project delays the courthouse, which the project in the courthouse is dependent on the court schedule. It's all been built around the court schedule. They can't start working in the jury room project until the state's attorney moves downstairs. So this has basically put a halt to that. So we're now planning on you guys meeting here through February. And that's as quick as they can get you back in there now, if you say go. And if you put it off for weeks and discuss it, we're getting into summertime before this is done.
And I'm sure that could impact a lot of things that we don't want to have impacted.
For example, Lloyd's bid was based on getting this done in the winter.
Correct. So decisions that are gonna have to be made promptly, and exactly to that is, right, I mean, ultimately, all of the construction in phase 2 of the second of the courthouse is in directly above my office. It's moving all the plumbing from the 2 elevated bathrooms in the jury room and the public women's bathroom into the second floor ceiling, right, above the false ceiling. So to make that floor level with the ground rather than how it currently sits as an elevated with plumbing sitting in that flooring. For them to do that work, I have to be out of that space. There's no feasible way for my office to operate, which is why this has all been phased out. They were hanging the grid system for my office, and a couple of weeks I had to schedule to get us in. Painting has already been done. They're getting ready to put in ceiling tiles. And now, of course, that has to come to a halt until it's going to cost us more money to have them install these things and then take them out to fire sprinkler systems in. So I agree with Andy completely that time is of the essence more than anything.
So is next week, okay, or is it feasible? We might need a special meeting, but then we gotta have notice and.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard too, because Thursday's a holiday.
Let's go to executive session.
So we got,
We're most of it.
before we get there, we got department monthly reports for review. Everybody saw those. And then payroll new hires for the minutes.
It's just a review thing too.
And it's as follows: Aiden Boyce was hired as a part-time correctional officer, despite loss of the team, 35 an hour. Now we can go to executive.
We do vouchers.
We did
We
those.
did.
We did approve.
Oh, we did, got me.
I moved to go into executive session for legal contractual matters per SDCL 125-2 subsection 3.
Second. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, we're in executive session.
Another.
I would, in my my request would be the
Okay.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Do you have anything else?
I move that we schedule a meeting for 3 PM tomorrow to consider the change order on the the remodel at the courthouse.
Second. Have a motion and a second, and it will be Zoom only.
Yes, and anybody that cannot access Zoom can come to my office and they'll be provided access.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, 101, sorry, Andy. I was like,